Okay. So in this one here, the reality of the 401ks is this: you're not going to get your $1 million unless you're making over $100,000 a year coming out of high school. It ain't going to happen. All right. I mean, you think about it. IRS says you can put up to $23,000 a year into a 401k. That's how you're going to get your millions of dollars into it. Right. Nobody coming out of high school is going to be making $30, $40 an hour. It's just not going to happen. I mean, the vast majority of people in this country, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say like 70% of the people, no, they're not going to be making that kind of money. All right, even if you might have to go to school or something like that, but then you got debt to pay off. You can't afford to put 30, 40% of your income into a 401k. It's just not going to happen. I mean, you just crunch some numbers here. You're making $20 an hour. That's 42 grand a year. $23,000. You're gonna put half of it into 401k. What are you gonna live on? Where are you living? You got to pay taxes then on what's left over. You live in the state of Minnesota where they tax you here, there, and everywhere. You ain't got no money to pay rent or anything like that. That's the reality. I mean, you're lucky you put in 10% at the most. But if your employer matches up to a certain point, get the matching. Because then if you lose money, well, it's their money, all right? Because 401ks, they don't make, their returns are awful. I mean, the government even proved that back in the early 2000s. The returns are awful. The people managing your money are managing it for them. They say they want to help you, but they're actually managing it for them. If they have a choice of two different products to put your money into, and this one gives them a higher fee, it gives them a higher percentage, income, well, they're going to take that one. Even though that one will get you a lower rate, they're going to take that one because they're in it for them. There's no law out there that says they have to work for you. There was, but then we had a president who changed that. Yeah, I'm not getting into that, right? So just get what your employer matches, and then seriously look at getting a Roth. On the reality of the 401k, my wife retired, 65. She neglected to get some passwords. Because usually you look at your 401k at work and you go through the work computer or whatever. Well, she neglected to get passwords. It took us a couple weeks to get all that set up, right? And then another thing too, if you ever go into your 401k and it says something like, this is how much you're going to get or whatever, I've always had, how do they come up with this number? Well, it has to do with what's going to happen to most people. Like 90% of the people in this country basically are going to be either invalid or dead by the time you're 85 years old. Okay? So if you retire at 65, you got to draw on it for 20 years. You retire at 62, you got to draw on it for 23 years. You retire at 70, you draw on it for 15 years. They don't want to go past 85 years of age. That's the reality. So she calls up and says, want to start drawing on the 401k. I mean, there's a number. It says right there on the website, this is what we can get. Well, you can pick anything you want. Really? So I do the books. And I told her, I said, well, okay, $1,200. I need $1,200 to make ends meet. Lady on the phone says, no, that's too low. We can't do that. Yeah, it's because it'll last more than 20 years, And so we ended up choosing $1,700. All right. And that was it. So for the year, every month, $1,700 deposited into. Well, it's either $1,735 or $1,680, depends on the market. At the end of the year, you get your $10.99. I'm looking at it going, something's not right. It doesn't add up. The numbers don't add up. Well, what they don't tell you is that that's what you want. But now they have to pay taxes on that. So we're taking out like $1,800, $1,840 a month that they didn't tell you about that. See, they don't tell you that. And they didn't take out enough either because we have to pay taxes now this year. Because they base the taxes, what they're taking out of 401k based on what she is getting, not married filing jointly. Well, gee, thanks a lot, And then, of course, because they're taking out more than 1,700, it's not going to last 20 years. Luckily, though, you can change it every year. You can go in there and tell them I want something different. We're going to have to do that. But the reality of it, whatever they say on the website, this is what your potential you're going to get every month. That's a lie. That's just to make you feel good or something like that. And, so just to let you know about that. And of course, the tax implications are really bad too. I mean, you got to pay taxes and all that stuff, right? So now we're going to talk about the third one. We'll talk about what you should be getting. Put just enough into the 401k to get the employer match. You got extra money. I'm going to show you why you need a Roth.